There is a guaranteed way to become friends with powerful, successful, and influential men. But you are probably making some big mistakes when you try. In today's video, I'm going to teach you some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to network with highly successful men, and I'm going to give you some tips on what you should be doing instead. The biggest mistake that I see people making when they meet a man who they admire or who they consider to be high value is that they act like a fanboy. They crowd around them, they invade their personal space, they stare awkwardly, and they don't contribute to the conversation in any way. They lack social awareness. The guy might be eating in the middle of lunch or in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of a business meeting, and they'll just interject themselves and interrupt it. They'll immediately try to take value from the guy by asking for advice on some personal problem or by trying to do business with them immediately without actually knowing the guy. Sometimes they won't stop talking to the guy and they'll just sit there and tell him their entire life story. This is a guaranteed way to make a man avoid having a conversation with you ever again. All of these things, by the way, happen because of this phenomenon of familiarity that the internet creates. If you've watched lots of videos from an influencer or a YouTuber, for example, well, you feel like you actually know this person, like you have some understanding of what they are about, who they are, what they enjoy, what they value, the kind of person they really are in the real world. But they don't know you. They don't know a thing about you. You are a stranger to them. So when you come across acting familiar to someone who isn't familiar with you, that immediately creates this fanboy dynamic. Treat them with respect, absolutely, but don't kiss their ass. Don't act like a fan. When I have fans come up to me, I always give them the time of day. I'll always take a photo with them and I'll always treat my fans with respect. But there are certain people who I've interacted with who have left a more positive impression, and there are certain people I've interacted with who, say, haven't left a very positive impression. You want to leave a long-lasting positive impression of yourself with this person. So if I saw someone I recognized, what would I do? How would I go about introducing myself? Well, let's say I might walk up to them and be like, "Hey Sterling, just want to say I've seen some of your work. It's helped me a lot. I'm a big fan. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. I'm sorry for interrupting. I don't mean to waste any of your time." That is a really respectful, humble way of coming up to somebody and initiating the introduction to them. You're making it pretty clear that you do know their work, you are familiar with them, you're familiar with their success, they've helped you, you're appeasing their ego a little bit there, and you're at the same time being respectful of their time. I might follow that up with, "Look, I don't want to waste any of your time, but would you mind if we had a quick photo together?" That's a very respectful way of asking for a photo from somebody, okay? I've had fans do basically exactly that to me, and I still remember that interaction to this day. Now that's an example of what you might do if you just randomly saw someone on the street or walking around in a mall somewhere. But what do you do if you're in the same room as somebody at like a networking event? How can you stand out and leave a long-lasting impression? One that is going to lead towards this person being in your social circle. Be competent at something. Have an area of expertise or specialized knowledge. Men of value want to network with useful people. Men who might be able to open doors for them somewhere. Make a connection, a business introduction later on. Help them solve a very unique problem. You want to learn the art of the subtle brag and be a good storyteller. This is how you grab people's attention. Having a unique and interesting backstory is really going to set you apart from everybody else and make you stand out. It's going to make you memorable. Your struggle is actually important. Your struggle and your journey is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. So take pride in that. Be charming, be fun to be around. Is the energy you bring into an interaction a needy one? Are you validation seeking? Do you come across as like an energy leech? If you do, well, then you need to fix that. Buy the men a drink. And you don't ask, "Can I buy you a drink?" Here's what you do instead. You say, "What are you drinking?" And then you go off to the bar, you get it, and you bring it back to them, and you don't make a big deal out of it. Be genuinely curious and interested. Ask them questions about themselves. Ask them how they reached a unique, certain insight. All these kind of questions are appeasing to their ego, by the way. People love to talk about themselves. You're not asking for personal advice. Hey man, can you help me with this problem? It's better to ask them questions about them and their life. This will make them like you a lot more. Really high-powered, influential men aren't actually impressed by money per se. It's used more as a filter for the people that they hang around. It's used as a filter for sorting out the normies from the successful people. So that's where things like nice watches, tailored clothes, sports cars can kind of work as a conversation starter and separate you from all the normie herd. Here's another really important tip. Befriend people before their rise to fame. If you see someone with a lot of potential, someone who's a really hard worker, someone with real drive and ambition and serious goals, well, that's someone you want to start associating with and start befriending, because men especially reward loyalty and long-term loyalty at that. So if you've been around this guy from day one, if you've been with him before he reached the top, he is going to reward that loyalty. Speaking of finding men on their way up, if you want to get instant access to the best international men's network on the planet, then DM me on Telegram about the War Room. When you're friends with successful people, be genuinely happy for their success. Don't get jealous. Jealousy is repulsive to successful men. Most of the time, the things that are guaranteed to gain the respect of a successful man are you being successful in finances, successful with women, or having some kind of physical prowess. The whole money muscles game thing that a lot of people preach these days is just as important for attracting women as it is for networking with high-value men. So now you know how to get respect from high-value men. And if you want to learn how to get more respect from beautiful women, then check out this video right here.